Do not apologize for your pricing and hold firm. By offering a discount, it could actually cause more issues in the future. Welcome to Off the Memory Card, the podcast where photographers talk about everything but taking photos. Because photography is only 10% photos and 90% building a life and business you love. I'm Kathleen Burns. Let's dive in. Let's talk about clients. Most of them are fantastic. I truly feel like the majority of my clients are family, but kind of like family, some of them can be challenging, and that's totally normal. You will see this through every stage of business, but definitely more so in the beginning, or at least until you learn how to deal with them. And that is what this episode is all about. It is in no way about shaming your clients or becoming cold or transactional, but it is about protecting your time, your energy, and most importantly, your sanity. And honestly, with a lot of these difficult clients, it's not their fault. They might just be confused. They don't understand your process. They're not sure what happens next or when it happens. And when it comes to your boundaries, if you haven't drawn that line, they don't know not to cross it. So it's our job as business owners to guide them through the process, to set expectations and set boundaries. So I want to go over the 4 types of difficult clients I've encountered in my photography journey and the same types of difficult clients that I think the majority of photographers are dealing with. The very first is the discount seeker. So what does the discount seeker look like? This is the person who immediately, right out of the gate, asks for a discount. And this can show up in different ways. One of the most common is someone asking for the family and friends discount. And what you'll find is it's usually someone who's not even close to you. Someone will say, "Hey, my sister dated your cousin in 3rd grade." Okay. Another one I saw when I first started was people who were asking me to shoot events for free, saying that it would really give my business exposure and boost my business. And I will say, in some cases, that is accurate. There were events that I shot for no charge, and it did help my business. But I think you just have to use your best judgment in those situations. It's usually pretty easy to tell who has your best interest at heart and who is just looking for some free or discounted photos. Another one I'm seeing a lot of now that photographers are dealing with that wasn't around so much back when I was starting is people comparing them to other photographers' prices. Someone contacts you and asks you how much you charge for a senior session, and they say, well, this photographer only charges this much, or this photographer is $50 cheaper. And I think in those situations, it's best to just kindly and calmly explain to them that those other photographers are probably a better fit for them. Because if someone is comparing your work to another photographer's prices, they're devaluing that work. Imagine showing up at a Lexus dealership and saying, hey, the Chevy dealership down the street only charges this much for an SUV. And, there's nothing wrong with Chevy. I love Chevy, but that's just not something you do. And I don't think anyone in that Lexus dealership is going to take the time to try to wheel and deal with this person who is clearly trying to talk them down to that level of pricing. So the key is just to know when someone is shopping for price and when they're shopping for value. The customers who are shopping for value are the ones you want to work with. Now, in some cases, the client who's seeking the discount may not be the problem. It might be that you are not clearly communicating your value yet. And I think the best way to do this is having your prices clearly set on your website. If you don't want to put your prices on your website, make sure you have a PDF ready so that when someone messages you about your pricing, you can send that to them. By the client seeing a clear set of prices, they are less likely to hassle you and try to get you to come down on your prices. Make sure you have a strong brand positioning. Try to avoid words like budget friendly. That sends an immediate signal to the client that they can talk you down in price. Instead, use language that emphasizes the experience. For example, if you are a newborn photographer, don't just put your price and how many images they're going to receive. Make sure you explain that you have created a calm, soothing environment for their baby. Make sure parents understand that their baby's safety is your top priority. Let them know that you are patient, that there will be plenty of time for cuddles and feeding, and that you're not going to rush through the process. By focusing more on the experience, they will understand that there's way more to it than taking a photo, editing it, and delivering it. And that is going to make you appear way more valuable. And in every conversation, make sure you are communicating in a confident way. Be confident about your pricing. Do not apologize for your pricing and hold firm. By offering a discount, it could actually cause more issues in the future. And I do want to be clear about something before moving on. Not everyone who is asking for a discount devalues your work. Sometimes there are situations where people are just going through a tough season of life and they may not have as much income as they're used to. And in these situations, you can usually tell they won't start the conversation asking for a discount. They'll talk about how much they love your work, how they would love to work with you. They'll explain their situation, and usually they ask for a payment plan rather than a discount. And I will say we have had some repeat clients go through these seasons, and I totally understand. And in those situations, I do usually give them a discount, even if they don't ask for one, because I think sometimes just being a good human is better than being a good business owner. And actually, I think it does make you a better business owner. So there's really no one size fits all. At the end of the day, you just have to use your best judgment and try to get a feel for who really wants to work with you and who is just trying to get the best price possible. Okay, moving on to a difficult client number 2, the time thief. That is the worst kind of thief, someone who takes your time. But I will say, for the most part, it's not their fault. This is where a lack of boundaries and no clear policies come into play. And the absolute best way to deal with this is having a good booking system. I will preach this from the mountaintop until the end of my days. If you have a good booking system in place that automates everything, you will get like 90% of your time back. There are a lot of options out there. I personally use Session for all of my booking. There is a link for a free trial in the show notes if you'd like to check it out. And I started using it for mini sessions. I don't know if you've ever tried to do mini sessions without booking software, but it is a nightmare. Imagine, even if you're just trying to book 10 spots and you have at least a dozen people messaging you asking questions about the mini sessions and what spots are still available. And you have Susan ask if 5 o'clock is free and you tell her yes, but she doesn't respond. And then John swoops in and books the 5. And then Susan says, okay, let's do the 5. And you're like, well, it's not available anymore. So she wants to know what spots are still available. And you have to go through all of that. And you're doing this a million times and you have all these conversations going on and it is a headache. So that is why I started using the software, because you can just put the link out there. I put a description that explains everything they could possibly ask me a question about. I put the location, the date, what the session is all about, what they need to bring, if they need to bring anything. I mention how long the session is, how long it will take for them to receive their images, how many images they'll receive, what they can do with those images after they receive them. Any possible question they could have for me, I try to answer in the description. I have photos showing what the set looks like, and then I create all the different time slots, and it is their responsibility to go in, choose the time slot, book it, pay the deposit. That way you don't have a million people paying you a deposit in different ways. And it just saved me so much time and energy that I decided to start using it for all of my booking. I created a pricing page with the software, and people can go in and choose what kind of session they want. It explains everything. I have my availability on there for them to choose from. And I have gotten so much of my time back, and it has really caused those time thieves to work with me better. It's just been amazing, honestly. And now the people who would normally show up late know what my policy is and that they are not going to get an extended amount of time once they're late, because that is all laid out in the booking process. For the people who want to cancel all the time, they now realize that they are going to have to pay another deposit if they want to book on a different date. And that has caused that to go down. I think that just by laying all of this out and guiding them through the process, not only does it answer all of their questions so they're not bugging you as much, but it also just makes you appear more professional. And I think because of that, people are less apt to show up late. They're less apt to constantly reschedule, especially when they already have a financial investment with that deposit that they paid during the booking process. I will say that using a booking system is my biggest piece of advice I can give to any photographer out there. Next up is difficult client number 3, the ghosts. I'm not talking about someone with a sheet over their head on Halloween. I am talking about the no-show, someone who doesn't even show up for their session, or maybe they have messaged you a million questions and once you answer them, they poof, disappear. And these people show up because they have no financial or emotional investment. This might be because you have a loose booking process or too much flexibility. And that is where that booking system is going to come back into play. By requiring that deposit, at least a deposit, maybe you require people to pay in full before the session, but by making that financial investment, someone who would possibly be a no-show, they're going to show up because they've put money into it. I will say that in my first few years of business, I didn't have a whole lot of no-shows, but there were a few. And since implementing this booking process probably 6 or 7 years ago, I have only had one no-show, and at least I got a deposit out of it. And if that person were to come back and want to rebook that session, they would have to pay another deposit. So at least you're still getting something out of it, even if they don't show up. And as I mentioned before, the booking system is going to send them that automated reminder a day or two before their session, so they cannot use that as an excuse that, oh, I forgot. Another thing that's good is to have a contract with your booking system. By simply signing a form, someone is going to feel like they have way more skin in the game and they're going to want to show up. Now, as for those who ghost you mid-conversation, my best advice for them is don't chase them. Send them a quick follow-up. If they don't respond, let them move on. They may come back in the future with more questions, but don't spend your time trying to get a client who isn't responding to your messages. But the key to dealing with the no-show ghosts is having contracts and upfront payments. That level of professionalism is going to go a long way in avoiding ghosts. And for the fourth and final difficult client, the high maintenance demander. These are the people who are always just checking in, wanting to know when their images will be ready, or once they receive their images, they want to see all of the images that they didn't receive, or with the ones that they did receive, they would like to know if there can be more edits done. And these people usually show up because of unclear turnaround times, no education on your process, or maybe they have an emotional attachment to the images. When you're communicating with them, make sure you are using calm and kind language, but also be firm and reference your process rather than re-explaining everything. Hopefully you explained during the booking process what your turnaround time was, so be sure to reference that. Now, if you did not mention it, first of all, you need to fix that for the future. But second of all, go ahead and tell them, this is what my turnaround time is. You will receive your images by this date. Now, you can even go on to say, hey, I understand you're excited about your images. I'm excited too. I promise you'll have them done, or you'll have them by this date. And make sure you're setting realistic expectations for yourself. You need to follow through with this. If you tell someone they are going to have their gallery by this date, make sure that you can have it done by then. Always give yourself plenty of time. If you think that you can get galleries done within 1 week, give yourself 2. That way, if you're able to deliver that gallery sooner, then you are over delivering and under promising. As for those who are demanding to see other images and demanding more edits, first of all, this is rare. You won't see a lot of clients like this, but when it does happen, it's just a good idea to educate them about your editing process. Maybe have a PDF ready to send them that explains how you cull through the images and choose the best ones. Make sure they understand in advance that they're not going to receive every image you take. There are throwaways. They're not all going to be amazing shots. And in a lot of cases, there might be 5 images that look exactly the same. And so explain to them that there's no sense in them getting all of those when you can simply choose the best one. And as far as editing goes, let them know what you're going to edit as far as, maybe brightening images up if needed, changing the color a little bit. Let them know if you remove blemishes or not. By setting these expectations and letting them know what to expect, then they're less likely to come back and ask you to edit more. In some cases, you might have to explain that I'm not going to change your bone structure. I had a client one time years ago who wanted all of her teeth straightened, and this was before straightening teeth was easy to do in editing. It's fairly easy now, but 6 years ago, that was not the case. And sometimes these situations can be the most difficult because they come out of left field. You don't necessarily expect that person to want all of these edits done in the process. So you just have to take them through and explain to them, these are things that I'm able to edit. These are things that I'm not going to edit. And I think for the most part, people will be realistic about this. No one should truly expect a photographer to take 30 pounds off of them. It is possible, yes, but I just don't think anyone should expect that to be done. But there are clients who need to be told that. So that is it for the 4 main types of difficult clients you are likely to encounter as a photographer. I hope the key takeaways you got from this episode is that these clients are not bad people. And in most cases, there just are not clear boundaries. This is something you can definitely fix on your end. Make sure you have a good system in place. Again, use some booking software. If you want to try Session, the one that I use, there is that link in the show notes for that free trial. Just check it out. See if you like it. If you don't, move on to another one. But it is important to have something in place. It will save you so much time and so many headaches in the future. Just remember that each difficult client is not a failure. It's a lesson. So learn from it and move on. And as your confidence and clarity grow, those types of clients will just naturally fall away. So as we wrap up, I just want you to ask yourself, which type of these difficult clients do you find yourself struggling with? And then ask yourself what you can do to tighten up your communication in your system to improve that. And I also just want to reassure you that handling these types of clients is all a part of becoming a professional. We all go through it. You are not alone. And I hope that you got some good advice today. I hope you're able to take something away from this and apply it in your business and that it will help you out in the future. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Be sure to tune in next week. I'm going to have another photographer with me here, and we are going to be going over all things work-life balance. You do not want to miss it. Thanks for listening to Off the Memory Card. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you'd like some more support on your photography journey, head over to usethatcamera.com.